Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Voice Like a Lion podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Pemberton, and today I'm really excited to introduce somebody who is from my side of the country, who is living on my side of the country right now, and his name is Lincoln. Please tell me your last name so I don't mess it up.
Coca-Cola.
Okay, so that is not your
Kokaram.
name. Yeah, I was
Kokaram.
about to say. So
Kokaram.
okay, so Lincoln Coca-Cola. He was born in Twin Island country of the Republic of
Okay.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Kokaram.
I
Kokaram.
know. I'm taking your joke now, but
Okay.
so Lincoln Kokaram, also known as Coca-Cola, he he's a really cool guy. We got introduced on LinkedIn. One of the thing that I love, because I have this whole bio, you'll be able to see that if you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that down below. But what I love about what he does is he is an active Christian, and is if you're watching on YouTube, you can see his license plate behind him that's talking about passion, and that is what he has going on. And we're going to learn more about here on this podcast is what he does with passion. So, Lincoln, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm excited to get into it. We usually don't start off with jokes, but you already started off with your Coca-Cola joke. Being in Georgia, you're not too far away from the world of Coke.
No, 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 no.
And that's actually where I had my this is already going in a fun direction because where my wife and I had our where we got married in Chattanooga and then we went to Atlanta for our honeymoon. So
Ooh.
we went that's what we did. We had like $5 and two McDonald's coupons. So we ended up going to Atlanta, spending our time at the World of Coke, going to the aquarium. So that was how we got started and where we really fell in love with that area. But all of that aside, I would love we're going to start with your story. So I know Georgia is not where you're originally from. So
Right,
take
right.
us through your journey of getting to Georgia, starting
Oh,
your company. What does that look like?
oh my God. You talk about divine intervention and talk about, I'm a living testimony of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
Wow.
In his heart, a man makes his plans, but the Lord guides his footsteps. I was born
Amen.
on a tiny little island in the Caribbean called Trinidad and Tobago, better known as the land of steel band and calypso,
Hmm.
and world famous carnival. Stephen, is it okay if I call you Steve?
Yes.
Steve, I was born in an ajupa. And what's an ajupa? An ajupa is a mud house covered
Wow.
with carrot, palm leaves, mud walls. We didn't have any furniture. My father got a crocus bag and made a hammock for us. We didn't have a stove. We didn't have a refrigerator in those days. My mom, oh, and it's amazing what came out of that lady pots. She cooked on a fireside with wood fire.
Wow.
And that's where I was born. But you know what, Steve? We were happy. We only had meat once a week on Sundays, and we
Mm.
got one piece, you know. But we were happy. We were at peace. And I never for once told me, how come we can't get meat during the week kind of deal? The clothes we wear was, how come we don't have nicer clothes? No. But I was baptized as a baby, grew up in the Presbyterian church, Sunday school, all of that. And to cut a long story short, and people will be more interested, well, how did you come? Why did you leave Trinidad and come here? I didn't leave Trinidad. I was invited. That's
Mm.
another divine thing. I never wanted to leave Trinidad. I was doing great. I was doing great. I was in the insurance business. I was making more money than I needed. I was a lay preacher. I was active in my church. I was involved in the JC's organization. And at that in 1984, I was vice president of JC's International. You will love to hear my territory: Bermuda, the Bahamas,
Wow.
the Netherlands Antilles, Belize, and Suriname. And my role as the vice president was to visit these countries, motivate the members, and train the leaders, do radio interviews and TV interviews, let the local people know that we're not a communist organization. you know, we are a good organization. And then in 1983, I got divorced from
Mm.
my wife at that time. And I'm not a fighter. I don't hold on to much. I walked away from everything. and starting all over again. Fortunately, I had family. I lived with my older brother, kind of deal, while I was, rebuilding my life. Still had my job. The income was still coming in. So things were okay. And my goal was to one day become the president of Junior Chamber International. That
Wow.
was my goal. And I was campaigning for executive vice president in 1984. My local organization approved my candidacy, and everything was on track. And then in June of 1984, I get a phone call from the Secretary General of the World Headquarters, named Richard Hayward, a British guy. The World Headquarters at the time was in Coral Gables, Florida. And this is how the conversation goes. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Lincoln. Hey, Richard. And when somebody call me, most times the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
So what can I do for you? Well, Lincoln, we know you're running for executive vice president. And we know if you run, you're going to win. Everybody loves you. You've done a great job for us. But, Steve, when you're having a conversation with somebody and they say, but, you better raise your antennas. He said, but we need a director of training at the world headquarters. And we've looked around. And we would like for you to be that person. And if you agree, we will make all the arrangements to bring you to the United States. Steve, I didn't even know they were looking.
Wow.
I had no desire to leave. But I was very active in training. In fact, my education is in my degree is in education. My first job was a school teacher, and I love it. Kind of deal. It's a gift. Let's put it that way. It comes too easy, man. It's a gift. So I said, Richard, can I pray about this and call you back? He said, yeah. So I prayed about it. And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Nope.
But those of us who know the Lord, He knows.
Yep.
So I prayed about it. And I get the sense He said to me, Lincoln, you need a break. Go. Call Richard back the very next day and said, okay, Richard, I'm your man. And now think about this. Trinidad and Tobago is a tiny little island, 75 miles north, 75 miles south, 50 miles east, 50 miles west. Okay? 1.2 million people. This
Wow.
organization at the time was 80 countries, 500,000 members all over the world. And this Secretary General is calling me from this
Yeah.
town. That had to be God.
Yeah.
That had to be God. And guess what? He proved it, because I am March 7, 1985, I landed in Miami International Airport with 2 suitcases in my hand. And everything I touched, every project they gave me, turned into gold.
Wow.
They sent me 35 countries all over the world to train the members. I organized conferences. Oh, it's a lot. But it was joy. I made relationships with, I learned to eat with chopsticks. It
Wow.
was so good. Those 3 years, it was like I got a master's degree in sociology, because I was immersed in so many different cultures. And the people just embraced me. But you know what I learned out of that? You got to adapt to the people and don't expect them to adapt to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see you trying, you eating with chopstick, you trying to use one or two of your word, mucho gracias, como esta, hasta luego, kind of deal. It's amazing how they love you, they embrace you, and they accept you. And it was great. So that's how I came to this country. And I'm a living testimony of how the Lord, when you be obedient to His will, how He bless you, how He multiply your efforts. And how I got to Georgia, that's another good story. I was in Miami, Florida for the first 10 years, 84, from 1985 to 1995. The contract with the JC's International was a 3-year contract. At that time, well, I was good in sales. You can get a sales job anywhere. I sold cars for a little bit. I I sold food for a little bit. I sold advertising for a little bit. And then I got into the credit card, the merchant services business. And that exploded for me. I started as a rep, I got promoted to territory manager, and then I got promoted to district sales manager and relocated to Houston, Texas. I was running the 5 Southeasterns, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, built a sales team. We were doing 137% of quota. Oh,
Wow.
God is so good. God is so good. And the best part of all of that, I am still in touch with most of the people that I met since those years. But I got upset with the VP I was reporting to. The guy had no people skills. Had no people skills. I didn't trust the guy. And then I got an offer from a competitor. And cut a long story short, I took the offer. They relocated me to Atlanta, Georgia. And I was running the 5 Southeastern states of, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, where you
Yeah.
Alabama, and Mississippi. Those are the 5 states I was running. I had to was a startup company, so I had to build a sales team. They had no training. I did all the training. Fortunately, I could do it. After 1 year, my VP called me. My executive vice president called me up. He said, "Hey, Lincoln, we like what you've done in your division. And we'd like for you to do that for the whole country. But we need to change your role from divisional sales director to director of sales training and development.
Wow.
But you're going to have to move to Scottsdale because that's where he lived, where his office was. His name was Mike, or is Mike. I said, Mike, I can do this, but I don't have the courage, the desire to go to my wife and my kids and tell them we have to move again. We had just moved like in 4 years, 2 times or 3 times.
Yeah.
Miami to Houston and now to Atlanta. He knew my wife. My wife's name is Vilma. I said, if you can talk Vilma into moving, you got it, man. he said, let me think about it. And so the next day he called me up. He said, okay, set up office in Atlanta. You can office out of Atlanta. And that was another 3-year gig that we changed lives. We built training programs. I hired people. I trained them to be trainers. We built that organization from $1 billion in gross revenue to $15 billion in 3 years. And in 2001, when the economy took a dip, the first department they cut was the training department.
Mm.
One of the most uncomfortable calls I've ever had to make was to call my guys and tell them we no longer have a job.
Wow.
We no longer have a job. So, well, we did good work. The company is they went public and all of that, good organization. And I moved around a little bit, my last corporate gig was with Cox Automotive. I was a learning manager. And I remember I told you I sold cars for a little bit. That looked really attractive on my resume to the Cox people because they are in the automotive business. And I think that helped for me to get the job as a senior learning manager. And I trained all their salespeople and their VPs and did some keynote. They even sent me to dealerships to train the dealers and the salespeople. That was a fun 8 years, 8-year program that I did for them. And then in 2015, the company was downsizing, and they downsized me.
Mm.
And everything happened for the better. Yeah. While it's happening, you may not see it, but you got to remind yourself who's really in control. And it was, fortunately for me, again, by his guidance, I had already set up my consulting business. he gave me the name of the company, his business partners, because that's what I'm all about, doing his business, being obedient to him, following his guidance and his wisdom. And I'd already set it up. So it was
Wow.
just a matter of getting back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wrote my first book titled Verse for the Day. Originally I thought about verse of the day, but then I said, wait a minute, that's passive. Verse for the day. This is you feeding. This is spiritual food. And on every page you get to I'm encouraging people to journal. God bless me today. And I'm telling people, don't write that you woke up this morning, because the rest of the world woke up too. But look for that specific blessing. And for me today might be meeting Stephen Pemberton and doing a podcast with him. That might be my blessing today. The next is, how did God use me
Wow.
today? How did you glorify him? How did you serve him? And I'm telling people, you don't have to be a big deal. You don't have to write a check. You just put a smile on a stranger face. Hold the door open for somebody who's coming in behind you. You in line, you got 10 items at the supermarket. You look back, somebody only got 2. Let them go in front of you.
Yeah.
That these kind of little things that make such a big difference. And the third is, I need to ask God to forgive me. Now I'm actually doing a second edition of that, so it's off the shelf. I'm hoping to get it done within the next 3-4 months. That's the other good thing about working for yourself. You and nobody's agenda.
Hmm.
You go as he leads me, as he inspires me. And then this book, man, this I sent you a digital copy, and when you have a chance to read it. But I know when the seed was planted in my head. I was in Houston at the time. This was September 1998, and I remember it was a Sunday, but I was at a football game that a friend invited me to. It's all in the book about it. Uh,
Yeah. The Oilers game.
Oilers versus the Dolphins. I had just moved from Atlanta, from Miami, so you know who I'm supporting. Dan Marino was still throwing the football kind of deal, and we were kicking their butt. I was feeling so sorry for my friend who gave me the ticket because he's an Oilers fan, he's a local guy. And then, Steve, in the middle of the third quarter, I stopped hearing the external noises. Everything went silent on me. And I'm hearing a voice in my head, and the voice knew my name. And the
Wow.
conversation went like, if a Lincoln, look at you, man. Long time I haven't seen you so excited and happy and joy and full of joy. Come Monday morning, where would all that joy and excitement go? Tuesday, Wednesday. Lincoln, what if you can bottle how you're feeling right now and apply it to what you do every day? And Steve, that was when the seed was planted in my head. But I had just gone there, I had just, rebuilding a team, kind of focus on, setting my family settled and
Yeah.
and rebuilding this team. It was not until 2001 I came back here. I wrote the workshop first, and the pen just flowed, man. Pen just flowed. And if you read the book, you will see I mentioned it. And when I do the workshop, everybody talk about passion. Everybody agrees that people who have a passion for what they do will excel at what they do. Coaches ask their players, give me more heart, give me more passion. But I've never read or listened to a speaker explain what it is.
Yeah.
Is it just a sizzle that comes and goes? It's someone, and the Lord give it to me. And in a nutshell, the P in passion, take pride in what you do.
Mm.
And this pride is not the hoity-toity pride. I got a nicer wife than you. I got a bigger car than you. I make more money than you. I got a bigger house. And no, 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 no. I got the corner off. No. This pride is a personal pride. That at the end of the day, you can look back at your day and say, I did my best today. The A is attitude. Your attitude towards life determines life's attitude towards you. What you think about it, you're going to get it. First, you have to think about it. People don't realize, a lot of people don't realize that they need to manage their thoughts.
Hmm.
Entertain positive thoughts, delete negative thoughts. And then the S, the first S is special. Well, look at what's happening in the world today. The social, the marketing people are telling the ladies to be special. Your hair has to be a certain color.
Yeah.
And you have to be a certain weight and a certain shape, and you have to wear a certain cologne to be special. And people spending, and the guys, we don't get off. They tell us we got to be 6'2". We got to have a six pack, and we got to drive a certain type of car and drink a certain type of beer to be special. And people are spending money and it's not working. Well, there are only two reasons why everybody should know they're special. And it's all in the book, but I'm going to share it right now. Two reasons. One, you were created in the image of the Almighty God.
Yeah.
Only the human beings he created in his image. He didn't create lions and tigers and ants and scorpions in his image. He created only us in his image. And guess what? Last time I Googled the world population, it came up to 7.9 billion people. I'm sure there are another million they haven't counted yet. We can round it up to 8 billion. In the whole wide world, there is only one Stephen Pemberton.
Yep.
One Lincoln Kokaram, and everybody who is listening to this, I was looking, there's only one of you. When you look in the mirror, see one of a kind, unique. That's what makes you so special, more precious than a diamond. More precious than a diamond. Now, you can go and make other people feel special. And when you make people feel special, they want to hang out with you, they want to visit with you, they want to do business with you, they want to support you because you went out of your way to make them feel special. The next S is service. Anything you do, you're a church, you're a non-profit, you're a business organization, for-profit, and if you don't provide exceptional service, you're not going to be in business for long.
Yeah.
So, the JC, one of the tenets of the JCI creed is service to humanity is the best work of life.
Mm.
When you give to people, when you help somebody, you get such a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, man. It is so good. It is so good. Service to humanity. The O, the I is initiative and integrity. People who have a passion for what they do, they don't have to be told. Something needs to be done, they do it. It doesn't have to be their job. And then the I is integrity. There are a lot of people who claim they have integrity, but they need to go back and look at the definition. Well, I learned a simple definition for integrity. I like to keep things simple. From a guy named Alan Fine in his book, You Already Know How to Be Great. And he said, say, do, co. Say what you're going to do what you said you're going to do, and communicate when you can't. You see, we all have good intentions unless we're criminal, and sometimes we might want to do something, but something happened. But don't just leave people hanging. Call and say, like a good friend of mine said, hey, I'm going to call you on Monday. That was yesterday. You haven't called me yet.
Yeah.
But I forgive him. Maybe something came, but he could at least text or something and say, hey, man, I promised to call you, kind of deal. So integrity. The O is ownership. Steve, this is our time. This is our world. This world does not only belong to President Biden. This is our world. If more people take ownership, we will have so much more peace in the world. We'll have so much more productivity. We will have, the economy will not be in the mess it is. Take ownership. My community, my village, my home, my church, my responsibility. And the end is never give up. Too many people are giving up too early, too quickly. Yep. That's why the divorce rate in this country is about 40% right now, because people are giving up too early and walking out too early and say, this is not for me anymore. And forgetting that for better or for worse, till death do us part. Stick with it. Never give up. Never give up. Jesus didn't give up on us. Up on the cross, he said, the most victorious word that has ever been spoken in history is, it is finished.
Yeah.
Finish what you start. Finish it. And that's another blessing, man. When you finish something, isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
When you finish it, amazing. So that project you have set aside that you say, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get around it, that a Zig Ziglar kind of thing, do it. Do it. Whatever it is, do it. So that's passion, and that's what I share a lot of. In fact, tomorrow I'm doing a leading with passion workshop for a bunch of new managers, and I customize it to suit my audience. Like if I'm talking to salespeople, it will be selling with passion. Talking with customer service, doing customer service with passion. I'm talking to preachers, preaching with passion, and etc. So that's my thing, man, and that's how I came to be where I am today, and I'm just loving it and just trying to be faithful and trusting. And one of my prayer every morning, tell me what you want me to do today.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do what you want me to do. And it's amazing what happens when he tells, and I just do what he wants me to do.
Wow.
And miracles happen.
Yeah.
Yep. Miracles
That's,
happen.
I mean, we could go a lot of different directions from that. You gave us a lot,
Yeah.
but the thing that I admire is because I'm there's a lot of similarities that we have. I mean, even when you're just talking about if you got 10 items and the person behind you has two, let that person with two go first.
Yeah.
It's those little things. I've done that ever since I was a kid. I'll hold the
Right.
door for somebody
Uh-huh.
because I mean, I hope all of us that are listening have heard the golden rule to treat others how you want to be treated. And so for me, it's even a little deeper than that. It's like I want to treat people not only how I want to be treated, but I want to love people the way that I wanted to be loved. Because
Amen.
there's times that I didn't feel that kind of love. So for me, it's being a different man than what I've seen. And so that's what is so inspiring about your story is because I mean you started it with something which is where I had first thought about a question, which was you were talking about being born in a mud hut basically and finding happiness there. And
Yep.
the thing that I love about that is because Paul talks about it in the New Testament, being content with much and content with nothing.
Yep.
So that word right there is such a foreign word. That is like a curse word in the Western culture, being content. Because contentment, and I've seen it from both sides, because growing up in Tennessee, I grew up Southern Baptist, and contentment looked like, okay, if you have over a certain amount of money, then you're basically of the devil and you must have stolen it or you must have ripped somebody off. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? Why does that have to be that way? So it's like contentment for them looked like living below a certain amount of wealth. And I thought, and then I've seen people talk about where they won't be content until they get something. And
Mm.
I think that that's such an interesting concept because contentment does not mean you just sit where you're at and just say, I'm good. It's contentment is being perfectly happy, content where you are, and expectant for where the Lord is leading. And
Amen.
because if you can sit in the duality of those things, because it's not about putting your hopes and desires into the next place, it's about being content with the Lord sitting with you right where you're at, leading you right where you're at, the same way that your prayer is every morning. Okay, God, I want to do what you want me to do. Tell me to do what you want me to do because I don't want to step out of your will. Give me the words to say when I get on this podcast, whatever it is, because when you do that, you can be content with your situation and you can be moving towards the place, the destination he wants you to head towards, because there's greatness in each and every one of us. And now, greatness does not mean that every one of us is going to be Elon Musk or Bill Gates. We may not all have hundreds of billions of dollars inside of us. That may not be our greatness, but he has something for each of us. And
Amen.
that is those aspects. That's why I love your story so much. Those are the aspects that you're bringing to the show and you bringing here to the podcast is helping people unlock, because I really like that is passion, because unlocking what that means, because I've heard that so often. It's like if you do what you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. It's like I love playing video games, but if I'm not making money from it, I can't do that all the time.
All the
Like there's
time. Yeah.
so there's things that you have to, and maybe you could, I mean, maybe you can turn your passion into a workplace, a marketplace. But the question is where does he want you to be? If you are in a spot already, if you're in customer service already, if you're a business owner already, and you felt like you're supposed to be there, what does he have for you there? What is the lesson he's trying to give you there? What's the gift he's trying to give you in the times that you're walking through? If you're in really hard times, there's a gift there. Because like you said, everything happens for a reason. Every time that job called you up and said, "Hey, Lincoln, sorry, I hate to break this to you, but this
Yeah.
is what's happening. We're downsizing, and unfortunately, you're the first one to go." And
Yep.
each one of those moments, there's a moment in time where you have to internalize and feel whatever emotion comes up. You have to feel it. You can't just bury it.
Right.
So you
Yep.
feel it, and then you release it back to the Lord and say, "Okay, God, you got me here, so you're going to take me wherever you want me to be. So whatever gift you're giving me here, I'm excited to see what you have for me." So
Amen.
yeah, I mean, I love it. And I so I guess now, because honestly, I wanted to ask a question, but I don't want to take away from everything you just said. But one thing I do want to do is for the people that are listening right now, where can they find you? Because I want the people that are listening to connect with you.
Well, my website is a good place to start. www.hisbusinesspartners.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I'm not like an everyday kind of, you know, person on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. Um, as I said, to contact with me, or go on my website. There's a contact form there you can fill out, and do you know that store Ollie's,
Yeah.
and their tagline is "Good things cheap."
Yep.
That's me. Great training, great speaking, cheap. you know, because I'm more about delivering the message and helping people than making the money. The money will come,
Hmm.
really, and I don't have a ton of overhead kind of kind of. And when you bring me into your church or your organization, I mean, there is video there on my website. I've spoken at UPS. I've spoken at Delta Airlines, Cox Automotive, many other organizations, Excite Auto kind of deal. So you're getting true to life experiences, and you're getting real, nothing original me, an international speaker and trainer.
Wow.
And it's a gift, man. I know it's a gift because you know how many times I prepare well, but in the middle of the presentation, this thought comes to my head, and that's the golden nugget he put in my
Hmm.
head. Yep, that's the golden nugget that he puts in my head, and I always leave room, because I like to feed on the audience, really do. Just to give you a true to life story, I was back in my home country, Trinidad and Tobago, last month, October. And every time I go, I get invited to preach and teach. I'm preaching at the church where I grew up in as a kid.
Wow.
And the service was supposed to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I like to get there at least half an hour before. So I'm engaging with the people, and this vagrant came to the door. So I went to the door and I said, "Come on in, come worship with us." He said to me, "Will you lend me $1?" And I said, "So when are you going to give it back to me?" He said, "As soon as possible." He didn't know that I was leaving the next 2 days to go back to the United States. I didn't tell him that. I gave him $20, local dollars, and he left. So now I'm preaching in the middle of the sermon, Steve. He comes back. So I can see him. Everybody else, their back is to the door. I can see him. So I say, "Hey, come in, come and worship with us. People, make room for this young man." And in most churches, the front pew is always empty. He came
Hmm.
all the way to the front and sat in, and the guy was crying tears. And the sermon I was preaching was what I just shared with you: do whatever he tells you to do.
Wow.
And I closed the sermon with sharing about the first death, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and the second death, when those of you who don't believe die the second death and they go to hell in eternity. Those who believe, they don't die the second death, they rise up to be with Jesus in heaven and spend eternity in heaven with Jesus. And I always do an altar call. First time, very first time, every single human being in that church stood up and prayed the sinner's prayer with me. And the young man also, he prayed the sinner's prayer with us also. I found out his name is Rohit. So I
Oh,
kind of recruit my nephew who lives in Trinidad to support him, encourage him, you know, whatever he wants. If I will help them from here, send money or whatever. But that's the hand of the Lord, man.
yeah.
The hand of the Lord. It works. I
Wow.
didn't plan that. I did
Yeah.
not plan that.
That's how
No.
God works.
But we got to be available and ready. The other thing is to be aware. People walk around like they got blinders. You got to be aware and look around to see that opportunity that He's going to put in front of you to say, serve me here.
Yep.
Serve me here. Yep.
Beautiful. It's so good. I mean, because it says that he looks across the world finding he when he returns, he's going to look for those who had faith. So he's like, how many will I find who had faith? And I mean, faith is just a substance of things we can't see.
Yeah.
So when I sit there and I hear your stories, I feel like we could just talk forever. So I'm not going to go down a super
Yeah,
deep
yeah.
tangent because there's just such a beauty in being a willing and open vessel, saying, "Okay, God, right here, I'm right here. I say yes," because that's all he's just looking for somebody willing, somebody
Amen.
willing to heed the call, somebody
Amen.
willing to take the next step, somebody willing to preach when they go back to their hometown, somebody willing to give the $20 to the person. He's looking for somebody willing to start the business when he tells them to. That's why I love his business partners. I love
Oh,
the
yeah.
LLC. That's so good.
I'm about his business. Yep.
And that is the tagline that I've only heard a couple times, but that tagline is something, whether it's openly expressed that you are a kingdom entrepreneur or whatever it is, just living by that mantra is that right there alone. I'm about his business
Amen.
because I mean it literally says it that he raises up the people he wants to raise up and he lowers those that he doesn't. So my thing is like, why do I have to worry? Why do I need to have anxiety
Why
about
be
how?
anxious? Yeah.
Yes, why do I need to know how things are supposed to play out when instead I can just trust that if he's telling me to do it, he's going to do something through it. He's going to provide through it. So
Amen.
yes, like I said, we could keep going all day,
Yeah, yeah. But
dude.
I know you
Lincoln's so good.
we have already gone over the time, but we're having so much fun. I want to close with this one
Absolutely.
comment. All you people, you are the star in the movie of your life.
Mm,
Make every day an Oscar-winning performance. Nobody can play you better than you.
wow.
Do it to your best. Dale Carnegie said, better than my best I cannot do. Less than my best I will not do. Be the star that you were created to be. Don't be somebody else. There's only one of you. Thank you.
Well, everyone, you just heard it from Lincoln. Go out and be the star of the movie of your life. And until the next episode, thank you so much for joining me here on Voice Like a Lion podcast. I'm Steven with my guest, Lincoln, and I'm so excited that you guys got to meet him. Until the next one, I'll see you guys around.